Hello everyone and welcome to another Tuesday webinar from Dux-Soup. Just while we wait for everyone to join the session, let me introduce myself. I'm Beth Baxter and I'm in the marketing team at Dux-Soup. For those of you that are regularly on our webinars, welcome back. And for those of you that might be new today, then it's great to have you here. So just while people join, I'm just going to get you warmed up. So let's test out the question box. Now, I'd love to see how many of you are Dux-Soup users today and how many aren't. So you should be able to see a question box on your screen, hopefully. If you're a Dux-Soup user, if you can pop a quick yes in the questions box, and if you're not, then a quick no, then we can just check that you know how to ask questions as we go through today's session. So go ahead and pop them in now if you've found your questions box. Now, if you haven't yet tried Dux-Soup, then do make use of our free 2-week trial. You'll have access to all of our turbo features that are covered during today's session. And you'll also be able to have a play with the tool without any credit card required. Now, I'll add a link into the chat to that free trial as we get going. So I can see people are answering, lots of yeses on, which is great to see, and not yet as well, so hopefully soon. Now, before I hand over to Giles today, let me just remind you all that you are on mute. However, we do love to receive your questions, so please pop them in the questions box as you go if you have any. Just try and keep them on topic if you can. I'll respond to as many of these as we go during the session, but I'll save some of the more interesting ones for Giles to answer at the end, so do make sure that you stay on until the end of the session. I also get asked a lot whether the session will be recorded, and yes, it will be. You'll automatically get sent a copy of the webinar after the session. It's normally about 4 hours after it finishes, but you'll also be able to find a copy on the webinars page of our website, generally from tomorrow onwards. Now, for those of you who are already Dux-Soup users, which seems to be most of you today, you have an opportunity to grab yourself a limited edition Dux cap if you'd like one. All you have to do to earn one is to share a review on G2 using today's date of reviewing Dux-Soup, obviously. So what will happen is we'll then be in contact to get your details so we can send you a free cap in the post. We have got blue and we have got yellow, so 2 options for you to choose from. But we do ask that you're a user, please, just to make the reviews genuine. So again, I'll pop a link in the chat box to our G2 page to make it easy for you just to go straight there and leave a review, and we'll pick it up from there. So coming back to today's session, our head of professional services, Giles Garnett, will walk us through a live demo of the Dux Dash and its newest features. So rather than listen to me talk about the agenda, why don't I hand you straight over to the man himself? Giles, thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Beth, and hello, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon even to everybody, wherever you may be in the world. And once again, thank you for joining us in the latest of our series of Dux-Soup webinars. As Beth just mentioned, my name is Giles. I'm head of professional services here at Dux-Soup, and Beth is an integral part of our wonderful marketing team. We're going to go through your campaign options today that you have in Dux-Soup Turbo, looking at campaigns and some of the new things that we're doing on the Dux Dash as well. I'm going to go through how to build a campaign. I'm going to have a look at some of the options that you have in the Dux Dash for managing your prospects, how to enroll your prospects into a campaign, how you can switch a prospect from one campaign to another, or indeed how to remove them. We're going to show you what data is available through the Dux Dash and a few refinements and touch upon our CRM integrations as well. Later on, we're going to have some news regarding some very interesting developments in the world of Dux-Soup as well, so stay tuned for that. A little teaser there for you for the end of the webinar. Today's webinar is primarily applicable to Dux-Soup Turbo subscribers, or for those who are looking to use Dux-Soup Turbo. So we're going to be focusing on the campaigns and the Dux Dash, which are, of course, the primary functions of Turbo. As mentioned already, while I'm presenting and talking, chuck your questions in the question box, and Beth's going to do what she can there, and I'll answer any others at the end of the webinar. Do try and keep your questions on topic, and as mentioned as well, the webinar is being recorded. Bit of slides, bit of live demo. We'll switch between the two here and there. So there's the agenda. We've already touched upon that already, so we might as well just crack on, mightn't we? Because I think the numbers are creeping up as we're talking. So there we go. So introduction to Dux-Soup. What is Dux-Soup? If anybody's new to Dux-Soup, hopefully there's a few prospective users out there. There's many out there who are already using Dux-Soup. It's a Chrome extension which allows you to mimic human behavior on LinkedIn. It works on free Sales Navigator, and the turbo version works on Recruiter as well. You basically define your list. You get Dux-Soup to process your actions against that. There's a whole load of information available on our website about that, and a vast array of back catalogue information, our blogs and our webinars, etc., etc. So you can if you go to our website and look up the resources section, you can find all the webinars and the blog posts in there. So go in there, have a look around. There's a ton of information there. Dux-Soup is basically mimicking human behavior on the LinkedIn platform, and that's the best way to keep your account as safe as possible. Okay, turbo campaigns. So let's touch on the Dux Dash then. So with Dux-Soup Turbo, you can build as many campaigns as you like, and you can have up to 12 actions in a campaign, have multiple campaigns running in parallel, and the campaign actions that will then get executed, then it depends upon the connection level of Dux-Soup. So if we just flick to LinkedIn a second, so anybody who's new to these webinars, you should hopefully be familiar, or anybody who's already been on them before, I should say. Anybody who wants to reach out and connect with me, just look me up on LinkedIn, mention Dux-Soup in your connection request message to me. I'm very happy to interact with people via LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out, not a problem at all. The Dux Dash, how do we get to the Dux Dash? First of all, if we've got Dux-Soup, if we're a Dux-Soup Turbo user, we click on our Dux-Soup extension in the top right-hand corner, and we go down to the Dux Dash down here in the bottom right. So if I'm going to click on there, we'll open up the Dux Dash. And the first thing we're going to talk about is campaigns. Campaigns in Dux-Soup, we're continually refining things a bit as new features become available, etc., etc. But if I go over here to my drip campaigns here, this is where we can go in and compose, define, and even edit all of our campaigns. See here, I've got 18 different campaigns here. They're not all on at the moment, but what I can do is, let's get rid of that one because that was one I was using earlier for a demonstration. So here what we're going to do is we're going to build a new campaign while we're sitting here, show you how intuitive it is. We press the new campaign button, we give it a title. We're going to call this webinar 31st, today's date. I'm going to leave it running against regular LinkedIn. Now you've got an option here when you compose your campaign, or anytime you want to, you can change it if you want while the campaign's live. So get Dux-Soup to point towards your preferred environment. You can get, aim towards regular LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, or Recruiter. It's up to you. You can give your campaign a description as well. You can put more information in here. Remember, when you're building a campaign, you want to build a campaign relative to the people that you are putting into it. Remember to link your search results or your list that you're building to the contents of your campaign. So here I've got my campaign. It's going to be called webinar 31st of October, blah, blah, blah. Right, so now we want to decide what we're going to put into our campaign. And by default, this is how everything looks when you start building a campaign. Now, a lot of people are doing this at the moment. They're starting their campaign perhaps with a follow action. So they're not sending a connection request straight out off the bat. They're sending a follow action, and then a couple of days afterwards, they're sending a connection request. You always have an option with a connection request to include or not a personalized message. But remember, we can always put in here our personalization by using _FN_. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, just in case. Let's make it a bit bigger so it's a bit clearer for everybody. There we are. So we can put in here hi _FN_. Please connect. Now, of course, you would put something a little bit more applicable to your target audience in your connection request here, if you want to put a connection request in. You also have an option here. You can put in other actions here. You could start your campaign perhaps with an InMail. That's an option as well. But all of these different things are possible. We've covered this before, but once again, we're going to say, well, the first thing we're going to do after we've sent our connection request is Dux-Soup will then listen out for when the person accepts. And then we're going to send a thanks for accepting message as our first follow-up. Now, we can build this campaign out as much as we like. We can put up to 12 actions in here. We can just press the plus button here. We can add another message in, and you can delay these messages for up to 999 days. Each of these things, I mean, you've got enormous possibilities here. A couple of things to remember: build your campaign around your target audience, and always think about your sequencing and the tempo of your campaign. Seen a few people recently who are sending multiple follow-up messages in quick succession. Those people are seeing circumstances where perhaps their messages are being flagged as spam. Of course, we want to avoid that, so allow time between your messages, allow your prospects time to digest your information. You know, it's back to LinkedIn 101, of course. When you receive a connection request from somebody, what's the first thing you do? Probably visit their profile. Make sure your profile's looking good, all the basics, make sure all of the dots are joined up. We won't go into too much detail on that one. We've talked about that in many of our webinars before. But it's as easy as that to build a campaign. Just do all of that, we press the save button and we're done. We can always go back in and play with our campaign later. We can change it if we want, but remember, anything that's already queued up at the moment, we can't edit that. So just be aware of that as well. You know, for example, if I had, for example, another message in here that was going out several days later, whatever it may be, that follow-up message number 2, even if I started my campaign now and I started with a follow 2 days later, 3, it's going to be at least 2 weeks before anybody gets this follow-up message number 2. So I can always play around with my stuff as long as it's not being queued up. So just be aware of that as well. So that's how easily we can build campaigns. We can turn our campaigns on and off as well. So remember, if you turn it on or off, you should always remember to save it. So just be aware of that one as well. So there we are. We've just built a very quick campaign there. Don't worry, I won't be using this one for actual outreach. So that's the campaign side of things. We've not changed much of that at the moment, but keep your eyes on that going forward. So that's our turbo campaigns. Oh, one thing to remember: campaign actions will depend upon the connection level. Let's just refer to that one again. So of course, this campaign here is primarily targeting people who I want to reach out and connect with. Now, it could be a case that you're wanting to put existing first-degree prospects into campaigns or move people from one campaign to the other. If someone's a first-degree connection when you enroll them into the campaign, it's going to automatically skip everything before the connection request and just go to the follow-up actions. So just be aware of that. If I take, for example, let's go back here, I had a first-degree campaign somewhere. I think it was this one. There we go. So got one here. Yeah, if I enrolled a first degree prospect in here, they're going to get my follow-up message, and then they're going to get all the other actions here that I've queued up, of course, as long as they don't respond to me. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour of campaigns. Let's move on to our next topic, enrolling options. So when we're enrolling prospects into our campaigns, we've got a whole host of different options available. We can do it from a search result in regular LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, or Recruiter. There's other lists as well in those platforms, such as alumni lists or lead lists or projects in Recruiter. We can even use custom CSV files via the revisit data button, and we'll show you that in a second. We can enroll from our CRM, maybe via Pipedrive, HubSpot, or SharpSpring, or indeed via the API. We now have a new option as well where we can upload a custom list via the funnel flow, and that actually gives us a lot more flexibility than the revisit data file. Hopefully what I'm saying here, if you're already a user of Dux-Soup, is not too, I'm not disappearing too far down a rabbit hole here with some of the terminology, but let's just show you 2 examples here. So if you want to upload your CSV file via the revisit data button, this is how it's always been. If you've got a custom file, you press revisit data, and then you go into you go and find your file. So let's go and find, I don't know, this one here. There we are, I've got a CSV file here. And remember, the CSV file needs to contain certain data for it to work. Here you can see you need the profile, the first name and the last name. The Dux-Soup icon turns green, and I can now enroll my prospects from here. Now, with the new updates to the Dux Dash, what we've got now under our funnel here, and let's just go to our funnel, we've now got a button that says enroll from file. So for those who've been paying close attention, you may have spotted this one already. All we need now is a list of URLs in a CSV file to be able to enroll people. So I've got a file with literally with just URLs in there, imaginatively called testing. If I open that file there, I can see here I've got 11 profiles ready to enroll. I can select whichever campaign I want to put them into. Maybe I want to put them into there. And then I can just hit enroll. Well, let's do it. There we go. There we are. It's as easy as that to schedule 11 profiles to go into my campaign. If I go to my queued activity, there we are. There's my enrollment activities queued up for those 11 URLs that I had in my file. So it's a really, really straightforward way of doing things. We go to the funnel flow, we hit enroll from file, and it's a much quicker way of doing things than before. More flexible as well. You only literally need the LinkedIn or Sales Navigator URL in a file. So that's one of the improvements or refinements that you'll see coming through in the Dux Dash. So we've done custom CSV file and the custom upload via the funnel flow there. We'll touch on the CRMs a little bit later if we've got time. We'll see how we do for time there, because we'll be talking about those a little bit later as well. So those are our enrolling options there, and we've seen the first of the big changes there to the Dux Dash. Now, as our prospects go through our campaigns, we now have some other options in our funnel as well to help us define what's going to happen to a prospect depending on what's happened in that campaign. You see, I don't know if for those who again have been paying attention, we used to have a reflow button and a qualify in and qualify out. We've now got hopefully a slightly more intuitive continue button to continue a campaign, qualify in, qualify out. We've got a switch, so we can switch somebody to a different campaign, and indeed we can even now unenroll a prospect from a campaign as well. So let's show you how that looks in real life. If I go to my Dux Dash here again, I've got a campaign here that I've been using for a while for testing. You can see here how many I've enrolled, invited, etc., etc. Here I can see my 65 people that have responded, and you see here, there we are. There's my connection request. There's the acceptance. There's the message. This campaign is now on hold for this individual until I press one of these buttons. And actually, the only way I can release the next message is to press continue. Depending on their response, I may want to qualify them in which case I see them appear here in my qualified block. Maybe they're not applicable and I want to qualify them out. So I can always find people I've qualified out here in the dustbin over on the right hand side, and I can retrieve them if I put them there by mistake. I can now switch them to another campaign. So I can click on the switch button, I can choose my campaign down here, and then whatever actions in that campaign will then take over, again, depending on the connection level. Or I can even get them out of the campaign completely, unenroll them from a campaign as well here. So these give you a lot more flexibility, much greater set of options there for handling your prospects as they come through your funnel. You can still, of course, click on the LinkedIn icon there to reply to somebody, takes you straight back to LinkedIn, and then you can reply in the LinkedIn messaging box there as well. So that's all available to you there as well. So that's how you can better manage your prospects via the funnel flow options there. Data from the funnel flow. So we've got a whole load of data, of course, that Dux-Soup is gathering on your behalf as it visits profiles. And you'll see here that within the funnel flow, you've got some buttons there, copy or copy all. And then that data can be copied into your platform of choice. And the data that Dux-Soup gives you is the first name, last name, the URL, the about, the LinkedIn sort of, the about section from your profile, the job title, the industry, location, and your campaign status. So if we pop back to our funnel flow again here, so you see here, for example, if I, let's copy all. There we are. I've copied that to my clipboard. If I now open, Excel, and of course that's going to appear somewhere else, isn't it? Rather than on that screen. That's typical. There we go. You see here. If I now paste that information into here, this is all the information that Dux-Soup has gathered against that particular funnel. So you see here, this funnel, I've got 1,200 enrolled, etc., etc. We'll see here, I've got all of that information available here for all my 1,200 prospects. So I've got the LinkedIn ID, the first name, the last name, URL, job title, what they do, where they work, and then the status as well. So I can see here what status they've reached within my campaign. That's all available just at the click of a button from within the funnel flow here. If you press just the copy button, you can select which segment you grab the data from. So you have some options there as well. Really, really useful, depending on how you're using this data and whether you're integrating with other systems. But if you're integrating with something via the webhooks, this may not be required. But for those people who are running this maybe just within this environment, that could be very, very useful for gathering information or for collating information around the prospects that you're reaching out to. So that's your data from the funnel flow. We've refined some of the search functionality within the queued activity and the activity log sections. So for those of you who are familiar with using campaigns, we have down here on the left-hand side, we've got, there we go, we've got our queued activity and indeed our activity log section here. And previously you just saw the URLs and it was a little bit, it wasn't so intuitive, should we say. So we've now refined this and we can now see in here, we can now type in the name of somebody. If we just start typing a name, we can then see here that Dux-Soup will then find anybody who matches those particular criteria. And of course I didn't do this, so here we go. I'm going to just type in the word Peter and I can pull out anybody who's got the word Peter in there. I can also break this down, of course, by per campaign, per status and per action. So I can always interrogate this to see both the activity log and in the queued activity what's going on with regards to those actions. So I've now got a much better access to the search criteria and being able to make sure that we are reaching out or being able to look back and see what actions have happened on our behalf there. It's one of the things that we've been working on for a while, so it's really nice to see this actually in the flesh, as it were, because previously, yeah, so it wasn't so intuitive when it was literally just the URLs there. Okay, so that's our improved search. And then, of course, we'll just touch on very quickly, coming towards the end now, we'll talk about our CRMs. We've got our direct CRM connections, which are visible and configurable via the Dux Dash. And maybe if there are questions on this, we'll dive into this in a bit more detail. But we have direct integrations with Pipedrive, HubSpot, and SharpSpring, for those of you who aren't aware. And you can configure all of that via the Dux Dash here on the left-hand side. You see where I've got our CRM connections here. This is where you go in and you define what data you want to appear, or which profiles you want to appear within your CRM environment. So here, for example, if we look at my Pipedrive account here, we can see here that I'm only asking Dux-Soup to bring up, to create and update people from connected profiles. So just to give some context to that, we've got various options here. We can turn it on and off, of course. We could have every profile I ever open in LinkedIn appearing in my CRM by choosing all profiles. I can, of course, use the tagging and other options, whether they're connected or not. But here, because I'm only wanting connected, I'm only asking for first-degree prospects to make it into my CRM. And I'm also saying to Dux-Soup, once somebody has connected with me, please update them. So if somebody becomes a first-degree connection, update it so that they do then end up in my CRM. So triggering therefore an auto visit to that profile and having that data come across. So those are the main things that I wanted to talk about today. Let's just go back to the agenda slide because I want to just recap. We've talked about Dux-Soup turbo campaigns, how simple they are to build, how intuitive they are, all the different options you've got there. We've got the following, the auto visit, we've got in-mails, we've got connection requests, we've got endorsements, and we've got follow-up messages. So we've got all of those options available in campaigns. The different ways to enroll prospects. We've got a new upload file function there. Just need the LinkedIn URL. That's all you need to be able to upload in bulk there, which is really handy because a lot of people are using different sources of data these days. How you can manage your prospects through the funnel with the new options there to continue or qualify in, qualify out, switch or even unenroll your prospects from your campaigns. The different data that's available in the funnel flow, how you can download that, how easy that is, and put it into whichever platform you so require. The improved actions there, or the improved search functionality, I should say, within the queued and activity log. People want to go back and check to make sure that messages have gone to people and see what's happened in the past, what campaigns they've been in, etc., etc. And then, of course, our CRM connections, which have been there. And we're looking to extend our native CRM connections going forward into next year. We'll be looking at further possibilities there to see what other platforms we're going to integrate directly with. Don't forget, of course, you can still integrate via Zapier and Make using the webhook functionality and the API as well. That was the agenda for today. We're going to come on to the questions in a second, but I think actually before we come to the questions, while Beth is maybe collating bits and pieces on the question side, the preview for in 2 weeks' time, should we mention that now, Beth? Is that all right?
Oh, please do, go for it.
Cool. Okay, so coming in 2 weeks' time, we are, well, you asked and we listened. Dux-Soup Cloud Edition is being launched over the next 2 weeks, in the next 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be joined by the founder of Dux-Soup. So will be joining us for the webinar. And we're going to be going through everything related to Dux-Soup Cloud Edition. It's going to be, first half of November, we're launching that. And he's going to go through how to install, how to get up and running, how to run your lead generation activities around the clock without having to have your computer on. Basically, everything that you do today, enjoying all the safety benefits of the Dux-Soup architecture without having to have your computer on, which is a really, really big step forward for us. Really excited about this. So yeah, we're going to be having a third version available. So we'll have Pro, Turbo, and Cloud. So everything related to Cloud will be coming in 2 weeks' time. So do register now for it. I think it's up on the website already. If it's not already, then it will be within the next few minutes after the webinar. So yeah,
I've just
really
put the link in the chat, Giles. So it's not yet on the website, but the link is there in the chat.
Fantastic, excellent news. So yeah, looking forward to that one. It's going to be a really big step forward in the world of Dux-Soup. So hopefully there'll be a lot of interest in that one. So yeah, should we go back to the questions then?
Yes, let's do that. So I have had a few questions, some I've answered, an interesting mix. So can you go through the qualified column and show how you would qualify someone in or out, and also cover the percentages, how the percentages are measured on the funnel flow?
It's always a discussion how the percentages are measured. Yeah, we're open a little can of worms here. But, so let's go back to our funnel flow. Let's have a think. Can I find one where I've got?
So just showing an example of how you would qualify someone in or out and how that works.
Yep. So here we go. Here we've got our numbers here. Now the accepted percentage is always a percentage of the number that have actually been invited. So you see here we've enrolled 1,295, and somebody's probably doing the maths on their laptop at the moment to double check these figures if they want to. But my understanding is we have the enrolled number, and the invited tells us how many of those enrolled people have been invited. So it tells us the progress, because of course you may have a backlog depending on your daily limits. The accepted is a percentage of as a percentage of the invited, because there's no point in showing an accepted number based upon the enrolled, because you may not have invited them. So yeah, there's no point in doing that. We then see the follow-ups that have been sent. That's the percentage of the I'd have to double check that one, and responded accordingly there. I believe that's all based upon the invited number there. And then so basically then, depending on the responses that you get, normally, yeah, I mean, you might base it upon the accepted block here, depending on what you want to do. You can qualify in, qualify out, switch and unenroll from there. But normally the people who interact with you are the people you're going to make you're reaching a decision point here. You've had some sort of feedback from them. So here, this guy is sure, happy to connect. Maybe that means I'm going to then say, right, maybe he's given me his email address or his telephone number. I'm going to say, right, I want to qualify him in. There we go. He appears now in my qualified in block here. Basically, a qualified in prospect is somebody who I would then say, yeah, they've reached a certain level within my interaction. Maybe I've taken the interaction away from LinkedIn. He's qualified. I'm following up via email or via telephone or via a meeting, for example. Similarly, if somebody responds and says, I don't know, I don't know, let's try and find a good example here. Doesn't really matter. This one here, maybe they've said, yeah, thanks for reaching out, not interested. Maybe you then want to say, oh, qualify them out because they're not an appropriate person for this campaign. I qualify them out. There we go. I can still find them here if I want to. So the guy I think I just put in here has just gone in here. So he's now qualified out. I can still recover him back from here. I can still hit qualify back in or whatever I want to do here. So I've got that option as well, or I can unenroll him from the campaign entirely, in which case his data would be removed from here. So we've got those options available, and likewise I can always switch him to another campaign from any of those places there as well. So the only thing that will mean that the campaign would continue for these people is the continue button. Everything else, the campaign is stopped and won't continue unless I press that continue button. Okay, clear as mud maybe. But
On the same vein, Giles, another question for someone. When you switch a campaign, I think we want some clarity around how that works. So what will the first action be? So will it start in the follow-up one of the new campaign always? I'm not quite sure what that means, but can you just run through if you switch?
So the different scenarios would be, of course, depending on, maybe they're they've, if they're reaching this stage of responded, they've accepted your connection request or a first degree connection. So if I was, for example, to switch this person to another campaign, for example, if I put him into my first degree campaign here, I've got to go and check what the content of my first degree campaign is very quickly. Let's have a look. So that's this campaign here. So here, for example, if I enroll this person into my first degree campaign, he's a first degree prospect, so he's going to get my follow-up message one. It's not going to send him the connection request. I can't send a connection request to somebody who's a first degree prospect. So let's see in action then. So if I now flip him, so he's here, Tommaso, let's do that. Okay, there we are. Prospect's been moved from webinar demo to first degree campaign. If we now look at my queued activity here, we should find down here, there we are. He's here. He's got his follow-up there. Enrolled into, he's got the follow-up based upon my first degree campaign just queued up. So I've switched him from the whichever demo campaign it was to my first degree campaign here. So he's now going to get the contents of this campaign here, and that will continue now until he replies again. If he replies again, of course, that will go on hold, etc., etc. I can always, of course, remove these items from my list if I want to remove them. But yeah, that's how it works. You just can switch them from one campaign to another just by using that switch campaign button where it was. There we go, the switch button here. So we can see here he's now switched into my other campaign accordingly.
Great, thank you, Giles.
No problem.
Now, I know you talked about the new enrolling feature, but someone's been asking whether you can still enroll from the extension in the traditional way, and can you just quickly cover how you do that again as a reminder?
Of course. Regular LinkedIn or Sales Navigator, doesn't really matter. It's the same either way. If I go into Sales Navigator, let's just go down and find let's find a quick search result here rather than messing around and trying to find a list. Let's go here. We've got 1,000 people in this particular search result. What I'm waiting for now is for the Dux-Soup icon to turn green. Once Dux-Soup icon has turned green, my options will then be available to me to enroll people from this particular list. Always takes longer when you're talking and doing something live. I think it's been scientifically proven. There we go. So now from here we've got a couple of options. From our search result, we've got a couple of options. We've got the widget on the right hand side, which we can use, and we can select our campaign depending on which one we want to use. Or we can do things in bulk. We can do things in bulk by hitting our Dux-Soup icon and hitting the enroll profiles. We can select whichever campaign it is we're wanting to put people into. We select our number of prospects we want to put into our campaign. Now, remember, you've always got that throttling thing to think about. How much are you queuing up at once? I think my default is I'm currently sending 25 or 30 invites a day. So what day is it today? So it's Tuesday. So maybe I would like to queue up enough for the entire week. So I'd queue up 100, select whichever campaign it is I'm using, press OK, and that's queuing up my enrollments accordingly. You can, of course, do this from different places. You can do it from a regular LinkedIn search result. You can do it from a Sales Navigator search result. You can do it from a lead list. Yeah, there's a whole plethora of different places you can do it from. Just remember the widget at the side only appears on search results. So that's regular LinkedIn Sales Navigator Recruiter. All the other places you have to use the bulk enrollment option here. So that's, for example, a lead list, project list on Recruiter, people who've reacted to a post, those sorts of things. That's when you have to do it in bulk. Also, if you're creating a custom list, you do it in bulk as well there. So that's how you enroll in the, should we say, more traditional way that we've always been doing, the more familiar way. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
No, thank you, Giles. There's a few here that really kind of need pointing towards some content, so I'll try and get those covered. Is there a way to send in-mails to people I'm not connected with?
Oh, absolutely, yes. In-mails is a really, really powerful way of reaching out. I'm just going to try and find something a second while I'm talking, because we've got a really good blog on this one, and I'm going to stick it into the chat. I don't know if you have it already, Beth, but let me find it. There we go. I've got it here now, so I can copy that link address and stick that into the chat, hopefully for everybody.
I'm also getting a lot of requests about limits and how many can I send, etc. So I'm going to post another blog on LinkedIn.
Yep, and also look at the webinar we did about a month ago on that one, because we updated everything about a month ago relating to limits and daily limits, etc., etc. So I've just stuck in a link to the in-mail question there. Let's go. There we go. Let's go back here a second. So in-mails, if you're using Dux-Soup Turbo and you want to include in-mails in your campaigns, of course you can do that. You go to your drip campaigns here. Let's go back to the one that we created just now for the webinar. If we want to add an in-mail step to this, we can add an in-mail in here. An in-mail always goes out as the first option in your campaign, ahead of a connection request as default at the moment. You can put in your title of your in-mail, and you can put your message in here. Again, making sure it's personalized using all of the markers, the placeholders that you've got there. Something to remember as well, actually, which a lot of people forget. Remember, you've got a footer in your in-mail by default in Sales Navigator. If you want to in-mail somebody in Sales Navigator, let's just open one here a second. Let's just go here. Whenever you send an in-mail, by default you have a footer. So make sure you don't double up your signature when you're sending an in-mail in there. I've actually removed mine from here because, or have I? There we are. It automatically appears when you start typing. So that is something to remember when you're writing an in-mail. So yeah, you've got the option to put in-mails into your campaigns here. And then also, if you look at that blog post that I posted into the chat, we can also use Dux-Soup to pull out the people who accept free in-mails and target them only. So it's a really good way of being able to extend the possibilities of in-mails. Remember, in-mails have a finite number of credits. So, but Dux-Soup can pinpoint those people who accept free in-mails. So without going into too much detail on here, because we'll be here all evening, I think, because I'm just trying to see if I can find an example on here. Of course, I can't right now because that's typical. But there's a whole population of people on LinkedIn who accept free in-mails. So you can get Dux-Soup to only target those people and really expand the possibilities of reaching out to people with in-mails. And yeah, there's a skipping function within Dux-Soup to target those people only. Dux-Soup will skip past people if it's going to cost you a credit and only go to people who accept those free in-mails. So that's a really powerful thing. We did a webinar about this. We've done two webinars about this. We did one earlier this year. We did one particularly in May last year, which got an enormous response. So do go and have a look at that. And based upon that webinar, that's the blog post that you have in the links there. So yeah, do have a look at that.
Okay, just clarifying this switching campaigns again, and a second question on it. When you decide to switch a person from one campaign to another in the Dux Dash, so it's just clarifying from the same person, in the new campaign, in which phase will it start? Will it be in follow-up one, which I guess it would be if it's a connection, but what if they're not a connection?
If they're not a connection, then it would do the, if it was a second or third degree connection, it would go to the first phase of the campaign, whatever that may be. But remember, you can't send another connection request to a prospect until you have A, withdrawn your previous connection request, and B, waited at least 3 weeks. Yeah. So that's just a LinkedIn limitation. So be aware of that as well. If you want to put, people who you've reached out to before who have not responded, so people who've not accepted your connection request, make sure that you've withdrawn those invites, which you can do with Dux-Soup. Get Dux-Soup to do that automatically for you. Those connection requests can be withdrawn, and then you need to wait at least 3 weeks. It's up to 3 weeks, I think it may be, before you can invite somebody again.
Okay, thank you, Giles. Another question. If I have over 600 prospects, I want to connect a message. How would I go about that without triggering LinkedIn limitations? How many would I be able to do, and how long would this campaign take?
Okay, so it depends on the first question, or the first two questions that will be relevant to this, and this is in the blog post that I think you've shared already about keeping your account safe. There's a number of questions that you'd need to understand regarding your LinkedIn account. First of all, how big is your first degree network? Second of all, do you have a paid account or a free account on LinkedIn? And then basically you can work from there to sort of figure out your numbers. By default, once you set up Dux-Soup, by default, Dux-Soup will send out up to 25 connection requests per day on your behalf. So if you've got 600 people and you're sending out 25 a day, if you're working 5 days a week, then that would be, off the top of my head, about 4.5, 5 weeks, something like that. It would take that long to send that many connection requests out. If you've got a lot of connections, if you're getting a good response rate, so I mean upwards of 20–25%, what you will be able to do over time is accelerate. So you start at 25 requests a day. After a week or so, you go to 30 requests a day. After another week, you go to 35 requests a day. You can slowly accelerate things. I can't reiterate it enough. Have a read of that blog post. It summarizes what we have learned at Dux-Soup over the last, well, it's nearly 10 years now that Dux-Soup's been a commercial product. That will contextualize all of what I'm saying there. There's a whole raft of things that influence how much you can do on LinkedIn. One of them is how many people are ignoring your connection requests, or how many people are flagging you as not appropriate or spamming them. If not many people are flagging you for that, then you're going to be able to do more and more and more. And if lots of people are accepting, you will be able to do more over time. We are seeing, if you're running a free LinkedIn account, that there are more restrictions being placed on people. LinkedIn seem to be testing different things at different times at the moment. So we are seeing, if you're running a free LinkedIn account, more restrictions in place. And that can relate to the number of invites and maybe the personalization of invites. So just be aware of that as well, because LinkedIn are continually testing and trying things out. But my advice, start at 25 a day, which is the default that the Dux-Soup sets up with. If you enroll all 600, it's going to go at 25 a day. You leave it running. Dux-Soup will pick up if you get a warning from LinkedIn to slow down. It'll pause for a couple of days and then it'll try again. Because of course, it's a continually moving target. You cannot control when people, or how many people accept your connection request. The only thing that you can control is the quality of your targeting, the quality of your messaging, and the number of people that you're reaching out to. So think about all of those things, and then, yeah, good luck with that campaign.
Okay, quick one, yes or no, I guess, answer. Have you introduced the ability to bulk unenroll a list? I don't think you've covered that, have you? Or have you said that?
No, no, but you can, yeah, bulk unenroll. No, we haven't introduced that functionality yet, although the other day I was testing and I made a mistake and bulk enrolled a load of people into my campaign, and I took a hammer to crack a nut and just deleted the campaign, which got rid of everything on that campaign, or everything that was queued up and everything that was going to happen in the future. So that's one way of doing it. Probably not the ideal way, but it is a possibility to be able to do that and then rebuild the campaign accordingly. Because of course, if you remove it, if you delete it, then everything relating to that campaign goes. So all the queued activity as well.
Okay, and what do I have to do to have the funnel flow of the Dux-Soup updated immediately?
So the Dux-Soup.
Sorry, can I just qualify this? But I think this person has also asked a previous question to say it's a bit slow to update the funnel flow sometimes. Is there anything they can do to make the funnel flow update quicker?
I mean, there's a few things that impact that, of course, you know, server speed and connectivity, of course, but there is always going to be a little bit of a lag, because Dux-Soup is not checking for messages and responses every second of every day. There is a time delay between running what we call, without going into too much technical detail, the message bridge checks periodically for new connections and responses, and also conversations that are going on between you and your prospects. to populate all those messages. So the funnel flow will only get updated on successful sending of connection requests, of course, picking up new invitations and responses. That other than that, you know, it's just purely the way that the architecture runs at the moment. We're always looking at ways to refine and improve that, but yeah, the frequency of the message bridge is the thing that will impact the frequency that you're running the message bridge. The default is that it runs every 20 minutes looking for new connection, then for messages in your regular mailbox and in your Sales Navigator mailbox. So those are the things that will impact that.
Perfect, thank you. Quickly, is it possible to pause a campaign and unpause a campaign? I don't know if you want to quickly show how.
Yeah,
you can...
just turn it on and turn it off. So if you want to pause a campaign, so you see here, if you want to make sure nothing goes out against a campaign, we can just turn it off, and that means that nothing will get sent. You make sure you save it. Nothing's going to happen against this campaign until I turn it on. Those items that I queued up earlier, they still remain in the queue, but nothing's going to happen with those items until I turn that campaign on. So yeah, that's one way to pause a campaign. Yeah, just turn it on or off. That can be quite useful, especially if you're running multiple campaigns and you need to prioritize something else. That can be very useful for those circumstances. You know, a lot of people, for example, they only have maybe 1 or 2 campaigns because they've got, you know, very clearly defined sets of people they're going out to, but there are many people who create lots of campaigns, and they sometimes, you know, if there's a time critical event or something like that they want to prioritize, it may be a case they may want to turn other campaigns off to give a certain campaign priority.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to just do a couple more if you've got time, a few more here.
Cool,
So
no problem.
Just explain the difference between a first, a second and a third degree prospect when it comes to Dux-Soup campaigns and enrollments.
Yeah, okay. Actually, the best thing for me to do here, I can go to our support portal, and what we can do here is, I think if I type enrolling first, second and third degree prospects into campaigns. So this article here on our support pages is probably going to give you the answer that you want, and I'm going to chuck that into the chat. There we go. First, second and third degree connections. Of course, first degree connections are people who've accepted your invitation. They are part of your network. Second degree, you have a connection in common, or you're a member of a common group, should we say. Third degree, they're one step removed from you. And then depending on the level of connection will determine what happens in the campaign. First degree connections, you cannot send them a connection request, so its follow-up messages will go to them if you enroll them into a campaign. Second and third degree connections, you can send them emails, connection requests, etc., etc. So the campaign will start from the beginning there. So that's basically the way to think of it there.
Okay, and then I've got a couple which are slightly off topic, but I'll ask you anyway and see if you're happy to answer them.
Why
so Sales
not?
Navigator has a filter change jobs in the last 90 days, but that includes changing jobs but not changing employers. Is there a way to identify individuals changing employers using Dux-Soup?
You just need to look at the filters within Sales Navigator, and I guess you would then need to just look at years in current position, less than 1 year, or
years
maybe
in current company, because they want to look at the change in
current company. Yeah, that would be the way I would do it. You know, you'd look at people who've changed jobs and then been in the current company within a relatively short period of time. Use that as a combined way of searching. There may be other filters available in Recruiter. I'm not sure, but I don't have a Recruiter license here, so yeah, that's what I would do. I would look at years in current company in conjunction with changed jobs, and then look accordingly that way.
Okay, thanks, Giles. And then last one, someone trying to use Zapier with Dux-Soup and instantly. Do we have any step-by-step instructions? Are you aware of that one?
Yeah, if we go to go to the Zapier introduction. Now, I've had a long discussion with people here whether it's Zapier or Zapier, and I was told in great confidence by somebody from their organization it's Zapier because it makes you happier. It's quite a good.
Very good.
I don't know whether that's true or not, but that was somebody who worked for them. So this here explains everything within Zapier. And if I can, yeah, I'll stick that one into the chat. If we go to the integrations here, you've got here a whole load of explanations. I'll stick that in the chat as well. But it's something that I think we'll probably be covering again in a webinar in the not too distant future, as everything's evolving and we're looking at more integrations and bits and pieces. But yeah, the integration with Zapier has evolved massively since we first introduced it, what, 3.5 years ago, maybe something like that, 4 years ago. So yeah, have a look there, but also if you need to, reach out to our support team, info@dux-soup.com, that one there you are, you can see the email address there, and they will help as well. So if they can assist, then they absolutely will. Just ping them a message or use the live chat option on our support pages. The entire support team are well versed in how we can use Zapier and make use of that facility. So yeah, that would be my advice there if they're stuck at all.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I think we've answered every single question, which we've done well there, Giles. So just finally, don't forget your cap. There's a link at the bottom there of the chat. So it literally is a really quick thing to do. If you wouldn't mind giving us a review, that would be great. We'll get a cap sent to you.
And get today's date on it so that that we know that it came from the webinar today. And a reminder as well, in 2 weeks' time, the big launch of the cloud edition. You'll probably see some stuff in your mailbox around this as well in the coming days. So yeah, really excited to be part of this and seeing the evolution of Dux-Soup going forward.
I'll put that finally in the chat, just that registration link, so you can hop on and register straight away. All right, I think that's it. I think we can wrap it up. Thank you, Giles.
You're welcome. Nice to have you on board for this time, Beth. Though it's been a while since we've seen you on the webinars.
I know, a bit rusty, aren't I? But I've enjoyed it. Nice to see everyone still chatting about Dux-Soup and lots of questions there. And thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.